Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and hope you guys are having a good day and really appreciate you taking some time to check the video out. We are going to be talking about why some people catch more big bass than you guys do, or why some anglers catch, consistently more bigger fish, because there is a reason for this. Catching big fish is just not some haphazard thing. There's some things you can do to really increase your success of consistently catching bigger fish all the time, and I want to sort of lay that out in today's video, give you guys some good tips and advice, and hopefully it'll help you guys catch some 7-pound bass or bigger over the next year here. Also, guys, before we get started, just your favorite part of our daily videos, the housekeeping tips. Just wanted to remind you about only got 2 more days left on the sale on my Spinnerbait series, RB2s and RB3s. You can get them at 30% off right now, and including prescription lenses. If you wear prescription lenses, you can get them. All you have to do is just go to the Spinnerbait website. I put in the link. And also, guys, if you use my promo code RandyB in there, you can get free shipping on it. So I'd like to invite everybody to do that. And also, guys, one other thing, please check out my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns. We got all of our spring maps on the site, summer maps also. Great resources to learn more about your favorite lake. So I'll put all that in the description of the video here. Okay, guys. Who doesn't love to catch big ones, man? Catching big fish it's the ultimate thrill in bass fishing. I mean, there's nothing like, setting the hook and it doesn't move when you set the hook, and all of a sudden just a big one comes out of the water. I mean, that's just it makes you feel alive. If that doesn't excite you, you don't really like to bass fish too much. So we all want to catch big fish, consistently, and it's hard to do, guys, because one thing about it is big bass are not stupid. You have to have everything just right to catch big ones. When a bass gets big, and I consider a big bass anything over 4 pounds, and it's all relative to where you live, obviously, but for a bass to get over 4 pounds, and especially for a bass to get like 7, 8, or 9 pounds, they have to overcome a tremendous amount of obstacles, and they're just genetically superior fish because they're smarter. A bass there's so many things that can kill a bass throughout the course of its life, and for one to get 7 or 8 pounds, they've overcame a tremendous amount of obstacles. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do to consistently catch bigger bass. Now, the first thing is one that you don't really have a lot of control over based upon where you fish at, because if you're going to consistently catch big fish, you have got to be on a lake or body of water where big fish live. It's like all you guys that live in Texas, California, and Florida, you guys are spoiled for big fish, because that's not the real world. California, Texas, and Florida is where the majority of the big bass are. Everywhere else in the country, like in my part of the country, in Missouri, Oklahoma, it doesn't matter where you go, unless you have some type of a special lake. Most of the time, 4-pounders are a big one. So you sort of have to gauge your expectations by that. Like here in Missouri, if you catch a 5-pound bass here in Missouri, that's sort of equivalent to catching a 10-pound bass in Texas. That's sort of the difference on the numbers of big ones. So that's one thing you have to realize, is to set your expectations accordingly to the lake that you're fishing. The next thing that you have to do, again, if you want to consistently catch big ones, is you have to target larger fish, because most people, when they catch a big bass, it's just out of coincidence. I mean, I had a good friend of mine. We were fishing up at Stockton Lake a few years ago, and he caught the biggest bass that I have ever seen on Stockton Lake on a Ned rig, just a little bitty 1.5-inch long Ned rig. And that's not a big fish lure, so that stuff like that happens randomly, but there's no consistency to it. So let's talk about what you can do to consistently fish and catch big ones. First thing you have to do is you have to fish where the big ones live. Now, you guys know that I don't use forward-facing sonar, so I'm not going to talk about that, but that is where most of the big fish are caught by people using that technology. I want to focus it on the real bass fishing techniques and the standard traditional fishing without that use of that technology, because I do think that's how most people still fish. I mean, there's people that mess around with it, but most people just want to go out and bass fish, especially if you're, an average, like, non-tournament angler. Okay, now, big bass require certain things in order from the places they live in traditional type areas. So you got to be around those areas. And there's two elements that you have to take in consideration when you select a fishing area that's going to help you catch bigger fish. Number one is it has to have some type of cover. Number two, it has to have some type of proximity to deeper water. Those are the two big elements. Now you can catch a big one anywhere at any time randomly, but if you want to like consistently be one of those guys that catches big ones, you got to fish areas that have cover in it, a diversity cover, and some type of deep water access nearby. I'll give you a prime example of the difference between somebody that randomly catches one and guys that catch big ones consistently. Back when I was, in my early 20s, Table Rock Lake was at the top of its life. It was at the top of its productivity. And they had, on a couple of the boat docks at Table Rock Lake, they had a thing called, it's like the weekly lunker board. And whoever won the biggest bass of the week got like a $100 gift certificate or something from the marina. And what they would do is anytime somebody caught a bass over 5 pounds, they'd take a picture of it and they'd post it on this board. There was this one guy down at Table Rock Lake that he would have like 25 over 5 every week. I mean, it'd be 5.5, 6.5, 7, 9 pounder, 9.5 pounder, 7.5 pounder. This dude was like the big fish guru. And I finally met him one day and I got to talking to him, and guys, that's the first thing he told me. And is that he fishes areas on Table Rock Lake that have cover and proximity to deeper water. That's what he did. And I found that to be true in my fishing also, is that's what you have to have. And it also helps if you have a diversity cover. If you have a section of the lake that has some good mixed cover in it, say for example, you got a stretch of shoreline that's got maybe some boat docks on it, it's got some lay down trees on it, it's got some riprap on it, it may have some lily pads in between the docks. The more mixed diversity of cover that you have within one area, that supports larger populations of big fish, because big fish, they either like to be suspended or deep or around heavy cover. They very seldom are you going to catch a big one just up shallow roaming around, unless it's maybe in the springtime or something. So that's the first thing that you have to do. Second thing that you have to do is you have to fish those lures that consistently produce big bass. Now, in my opinion, the two most overrated big bass lures that people equate to fishing big bass with are big swim baits and big glide baits. Now, granted, they will catch big ones, but they are low percentage baits. It's like you might fish a big swim bait and a glide bait all year long and not throw anything else, and you might only catch a couple fish all year long. You may have a bunch of them following that thing, but to get a bass to actually commit to a big glide bait and swim bait, it's very hard to do. And again, most of the big fish that are caught on those lures are in Texas, Florida, or California. I'm not saying they don't work, but they're for as much time as you'll fish them, it's not a good way to go after big ones. In my opinion, the best big bass lures, guys, and I'll link, what I'll do in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description, I'm going to link about 5 or 6 of my favorite big bass lures. So if you guys want to pick up a few of those, you can use that link there. It's a good way to help the channel out too. But the best big bass lures, in my opinion, that are realistically going to get you consistently big bites is number one, and it's a sort of a tie between 1 and 2, is a big spinnerbait, like a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait with like a number 6 or number 7 willow leaf blade and a full size jig, like my Blaukat throwback jig with a full size trailer on it, like a Zoom Super Chunk, a pork frog, a big trailer, a full size jig and a big spinnerbait. In my opinion, they are 1 and 2 in the lures that consistently catch big ones. So that, out of all the big fish I've caught in my life, the big fish, I'm talking about fish over 7 pounds, the vast majority of them have come on either a full-size jig or a big spinnerbait. Other lures that are real good for big ones, they can be, a jerkbait, a large-size jerkbait. An Alabama rig produces big ones. Those are the 4 really mainstays for it. And you can, like I said, you can randomly catch a big one on a topwater or, a crankbait or whatever. Deep diving crankbait is another good one at certain times of year. But those are the main ones that I like to fish. And then finally, when you're talking about consistently catching big ones, is you have to really focus on fishing a lot during the times of the year where the big ones are biting. And the number one time to catch big bass in any lake out there is during the late pre-spawn. Like here, at the time of filming this video, we're in late March right now. Water temperatures are still in the mid 50s. This is the best time of year to catch big ones, because all those big fish that are just randomly roaming out in the lake that the live scopers are catching, they move shallow this time of year, and they get into those areas where, you know, that I just described, and they're biting. They're hungry. They're trying to feed up and build up their egg sacs with protein, you know, for the spawning. That's the best time to fish. Water temperatures in the 50s and the pre-spawn, number one time of year. Second time of year that's the best with it is the early summertime, when those fish get done spawning and they've done all their stuff like garden fry and feeding up, and, you know, they sort of, you know, just farting around until they start moving deeper. Once those fish start moving deeper, and it's normally like in June, like the first, second, third week of June, and they start getting on hard structure like drop-offs and ledges and deeper brush piles, that's the other time of year you can catch big ones, especially on like a big deep diving crankbait or a big worm or a football head jig. So those are out of all the giants that I've caught in my life, you know, most of them have came during those two times. Now I've caught a handful of fish, a big fish, just whenever, but I bet probably 80% of the bass I've caught over 7 pounds in my life have either been in March or June. So focus on really those 2 months with those techniques I told you about, and your odds are going to go way up and catch them. Another thing with that, guys, is one of the things that's going to help you catch big ones too is you got to fish at a slow pace. And I don't mean like just not ever moving, but don't get in a hurry. Like, dial your trolling motor back, make sure that you're not slopping through your casts. Just, you know, really fish slow and methodically and quietly. Quiet's another big part of it. It's like a lot of people don't give, you know, big bass credit for being as smart as they are. But one of the things I learned from observing and talking to and visiting with and having lunch with Doug Hannon, if you guys don't know who Doug Hannon was, he's arguably one of the best big bass fishermen in the world. He passed away about a decade ago. But one of the things that Doug told me is he painted his boat camouflage, and he said he was super quiet all the time. He'd caught something like 300 bass over 10 pounds. And being stealthy and quiet is another big aspect of it. So anyway, guys, just use some of those tips that's worked for me, and hope it helps you guys catch some good ones, and we'll talk later.